Good morning. There was violence overnight in Los Angeles. Fans celebrating the Lakers' first NBA championship in 12 years burned cars and vandalized stores. At least 12 people were injured and another 12 were arrested. Calm returned a few hours ago, and the city is now looking towards a more peaceful celebration today, Tuesday, June the 20th, 2000.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning and welcome to Today on this Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm Katie Couric.
Matt's got the morning off. I'm Ann Curry. Good morning, everybody. Good news, bad news from Los Angeles.
That's right, Ann. The basketball game didn't end till about midnight Eastern time. If you couldn't stay up, it was a come-from-behind victory for the Lakers. Final score, Los Angeles 116, Indiana 111. Shaquille O'Neal, the MVP. But that's when the trouble began on the streets outside the Staples Center in L.A. We'll have a full report from there in just a moment. Then, because sports is my life, this question: is there a more dominant athlete in the world than Tiger Woods? Is there a more marketable athlete in the world than Tiger Woods? You don't have to know the difference between pars and putts to know that despite what Shaq did last night, Tiger Woods is the hottest thing on the planet. His victory in the U.S. Open Golf Championship Sunday, the stuff of legends. We'll talk about the Tiger phenom in this half hour. Ann?
Katie, if you're trying to make plans to go away this summer, you've no doubt noticed that airfares are sky high. But why? Does it have anything to do with the gas prices we've been talking about? And are there any bargains out there? Plus, we've been telling you for a while now about our summer-long series we're calling Today Ties the Knot, where you're going to get a chance to help plan a wedding for one lucky couple who will get married right here on Today.
In fact, this morning, Ann, we're going to kick off the process and introduce you to the 4 engaged couples. I feel like Bob Eubanks. You'll meet them, and then you can go online to our website at today.msnbc.com and vote for which couple you'd like to see spend their summer with us, letting us plan their entire wedding.
I hear it's a hard choice.
Yeah, there actually are 4 very charming couples, so it'll be fun. But first, let's get the latest overnight news from Dateline NBC's Sarah James, who is over at the news desk. Hey, Sarah.
Good morning, Katie and Ann. Good morning, everyone. And more now on the situation in Los Angeles. Calm has returned this morning after a night of victory marred by violence. Last night, MVP Shaquille O'Neal scored 41 points as the Lakers beat the Indiana Pacers 116-111 to win their first NBA championship in 12 years. On the court, it was joyous. On the streets, it got ugly. Here's NBC's George Lewis.
Even before the Lakers clinched the championship, 10,000 fans gathered outside Staples Center in Los Angeles to celebrate. During a commercial break in the local TV coverage of the game, the Lakers ran this plea for public order.
If we win, celebrate our achievement with style and dignity.
This is LA's moment to shine. Let's show the world how we do it right. Be safe.
But as the game ended, the crowd, fueled by excitement and alcohol, started setting fires in the street. Then burning police cars and TV camera trucks, 5 vehicles in all. Police dressed in riot gear moved in to disperse the crowd, occasionally firing rubber bullets. As people headed away from the arena, some broke into nearby stores and looted. Back inside Staples Center, many fans and some players were trapped, unable to leave because of the disturbances outside.
We kept seeing just people going back and forth, and we were scared. We were definitely scared, and our fear was that they were going to break the glass.
At least a dozen people sustained minor injuries in the melee. Police said most fans were orderly, blaming the whole episode on a handful of troublemakers. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Opening statements get underway today in Waco, Texas, in the Branch Davidian wrongful death lawsuit against the government. Relatives of those who died at the end of the siege in 1993 are seeking $675 million in damages. New York City is taking about 30 gun makers to court. It's filing suit today seeking unspecified damages, charging the gun manufacturers with negligent marketing and distribution of guns. Among the defendants, Smith & Wesson, the nation's largest gun maker. New York's move follows similar lawsuits by other cities, including New Orleans, Chicago, and Atlanta. Vice President Al Gore unveils his new retirement savings plan today. Under Gore's proposal, the government would match part of American savings under a 401k style plan. It wouldn't involve Social Security funds. Republican presidential candidate George W. Bush is criticizing Gore's plan as driven by polls. Well, there is another computer virus to worry about this morning. It is called Stages, and it looks like a harmless text file, but it has already shut down email systems at 4 big companies. School districts around the U.S. are analyzing a key ruling by the Supreme Court Monday. The court ruled that students cannot lead crowds in prayer before sporting events. More from NBC's Pete Williams.
The ruling ends a Texas tradition, a student chosen in a school election leading the entire stadium in prayer before every high school football game.
I pray that you bless each and every person here tonight, especially those involved in the game. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
2 families, one Mormon, one Catholic, challenged the practice as a state endorsement of religion, and now the Supreme Court has struck it down. By a 6-3 vote, the court says a pregame prayer has the improper effect of coercing those present to participate in an act of religious worship. Officials of the Texas school district at the heart of the case say it's a huge defeat for prayer.
A lot of us look at this as a giant step towards completely eliminating all religious speech on public property.
But a group that urges separation of church and state says the ruling still allows students to pray among themselves.
This decision is not anti-religious. It simply says you've got to keep a decent distance between religion and institutions of government, including the public schools.
The next legal battleground will likely be prayer at graduation ceremonies. The Supreme Court has already said that members of the clergy can't lead prayers there, but what if a student speaker spontaneously decides to lead a prayer? This latest ruling doesn't address that. The ruling says students can still pray on their own voluntarily before, during, or after school, but it says schools cannot sponsor the practice of prayer. Pete Williams, NBC News at the Supreme Court.
Billy Graham is hospitalized this morning at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota for treatment of a buildup of fluid around the brain. His doctor says the 81-year-old evangelist is doing well and is expected to recover. And Emmy Award-winning actress Nancy Marchand has died of lung cancer. Marchand played the scheming mafia family matriarch on The Sopranos and earlier played publisher Mrs. Pynchon on Lou Grant. She died at her Connecticut home Sunday night, one day before what would have been her 72nd birthday. And 7:07, time to go back to Katie, Ann, and Al.
All right, Sarah. She was great in The Sopranos. Our deepest sympathies to her family, and also all our best to Billy Graham.
Yeah.
Who's such a wonderful man. We love Billy Graham, and we love you too, Al.
Well, thank you.
There's a lot of love in this
room.
room.
I can feel the love.
But it depends on what you're going to tell us about the weather.
Well, I'm going to tell you that tonight at 9:48, summer arrives, which will be nice. But we're looking at dry weather out west, dry start to the summer season. Thunderstorms midsection of the country, beautiful here in the east. As far as today is concerned, wide swath thunderstorms from Texas all the way up into Minnesota. Sunshine out west. 79 in L.A., where they'll be celebrating a little more peacefully today. Sunshine in the northeast, with temperatures today in New York getting up into the 70s. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Good morning to you. Here's a look at Doppler radar. Widespread showers and a very good chance of isolated thunderstorms popping up throughout the afternoon and evening hours. Checking the forecast, we're going for showers, thunderstorms through tonight. Daytime temperatures later on this afternoon in the upper 70s and low 80s. If we make it through today and Mother Nature's watering, we will dry out and warm up as we head toward the latter part of the week. Low to mid 80s Friday and Saturday. But today, it's a wet one, and with those thunderstorms, we could see brief heavy downpours.
It's 7:08. Now here's Katie.
Okay, Al, thanks very much. On Close Up this morning, years of threats against John F. Kennedy Jr. FBI documents released Monday show that JFK Jr. was the target of at least 3 kidnapping plots during his lifetime, the last just 4 years before his death. Here's NBC's Pete Williams.
He took full responsibility for
the newly disclosed documents released at the request of news organizations show that the FBI looked into 3 separate kidnapping threats made against John F. Kennedy Jr., one of them overseas. The most recent in 1995 came from someone who called the New York FBI office with a tip, claiming to have heard of a plan to kidnap Kennedy, possibly while he rode his bicycle through New York City streets. The caller said Kennedy would likely not be harmed by the kidnappers, who had some unspecified South American connection. The documents aren't clear on a possible motive, and nothing ever came of it. The documents say the FBI contacted a private firm that handled security for the Kennedy family, and that a representative said Kennedy would be told about the threat. Before that, Kennedy was the target of an apparent threat in 1985, 2 years after he graduated from college. The FBI says police in Herndon, Virginia, near Washington, D.C., got a call from a man who was apparently drunk. He said that he and 7 others would kidnap Kennedy that night. Police quote him as asking, "You know, Massachusetts?" and then hanging up. The FBI files also document the only kidnapping threat against young Kennedy that ever led to any arrests. It came in 1972 when he was just 11, visiting his stepfather, Aristotle Onassis, on the Greek island of Skorpios. Greek officials announced in July of that year that they'd rounded up 8 people suspected of planning to kidnap a host of Greek and American government officials and businessmen, and John F. Kennedy Jr. The files are sketchy and heavily censored, but they vividly demonstrate an unfortunate fact. People in the public eye are often the target of kidnapping threats, especially the children of presidents. For today, Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
It is 7:10. Now here's Ann.
Thanks, Katie. Another member of the Kennedy family is in the news this morning. A Kennedy cousin accused in the murder of a teenager 25 years ago will be in court today for a crucial decision. NBC's chief legal correspondent Dan Abrams is at the courthouse in Connecticut, where prosecutors were asked that Michael Skakel's case be transferred from juvenile court to adult court. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Ann. Right now, Michael Skakel is the oldest juvenile in the state of Connecticut. His case still in juvenile court because he was under the age of 18 at the time Martha Moxley was killed. So now before prosecutors can try him as an adult, they have to convince a judge there's reasonable cause to believe he's responsible for this long unsolved murder.
In 1975, he was just 15. So was she. Neighbors and friends. Now, nearly 25 years after Martha Moxley was bludgeoned and stabbed near her home in Greenwich, Connecticut, Michael Skakel has been charged with her murder.
The subject surrendered to the Greenwich Police Department in connection with the murder of Martha Moxley.
The police had long believed someone in the Skakel home was responsible. Martha was there the night she was killed. And the murder weapon? A golf club matching a set found inside the Skakel house. Michael's 17-year-old brother Tommy had been the primary suspect, but police never had enough evidence to indict anyone. For years, the investigation seemed stalled. Even Martha's mother, Dorothy, almost gave up hope.
There was a time when we didn't think that there would ever be any justice for Martha, that we would never know who killed Martha.
Then, in the early 1990s, a surprising break in the case, after Tommy and Michael's father hired this private investigation firm to try to clear the family name. Author Tim Dumas has written about the case.
Michael Skakel, who is thought not to be on the murder scene on October 30th, 1975, put himself at the murder scene in a statement to private investigators.
After the report was leaked, other witnesses came forward, claiming Michael Skakel confessed in the late 1970s at this school for kids with alcohol and drug problems. Some of them testified in front of a judge who eventually indicted Skakel. But Skakel attorney Mickey Sherman says there's no credible evidence linking his client to Martha's murder.
From the moment that this tragedy occurred back in '75, Michael Skakel had been interviewed. He denied any involvement in this case. Nothing has changed.
Now, in this hearing, the defense will be able to cross-examine the prosecution witnesses and call their own witnesses. They weren't able to do that in front of the grand jury. And
Dan, what kinds of witnesses are expected?
Well, the prosecution's going to call at least 7 witnesses, and 2 of them are expected to be people who went to that school where Michael Skakel allegedly confessed. We're going to see some police witnesses, and we're going to see the woman who actually found Martha's body.
How difficult will it be for prosecutors, Dan, to have Michael Skakel tried as an adult?
Well, remember that a grand jury has already found that there was probable cause to indict Michael Skakel. So I think most people believe that this is a fairly standard hearing. But again, because the defense can present witnesses here, if the defense can undermine the credibility of some of the witnesses who testified in front of the grand jury, this may not be as routine as many people think it will be, but certainly it is more likely than not that this case will be transferred to adult court.
All right, Dan Abrams, thank you this morning.
Okay, Ann.
It is now 7:14. Once again, here's Katie.
And the Los Angeles Lakers may be on top of the sports world this morning, but only one man owns the sports world. Listen to what George Vesey writes in this morning's New York Times. If it was not clear before Sunday evening, it is obvious now. Tiger Woods dominates sport, not merely his sport, but sport in general, as completely as anybody we have seen in a long, long time, end quote. With all due respect to Shaq and Kobe and their victory in the NBA Finals last night, Tiger Woods' victory in the U.S. Open Golf Championship Sunday is still the talk of the town. And as NBC's George Lewis reports now, get ready to see a lot more Tiger.
When you talk about sports marketing, this could be the year of the Tiger. Golfer Tiger Woods heading for an estimated $50 million in endorsement fees. That would put his earnings ahead of the estimated $40 million a year that Michael Jordan makes.
If you looked at Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan as to where they are in their career, Tiger is way ahead of where Michael was early in his career.
Woods has big endorsement deals with American Express, Rolex, and Nike. And the sponsors say he's worth every cent.
Tiger Woods has charisma. I think when you're around him in person, he exudes a positive vibe, and just he looks great. He has a wonderful smile. He's very interesting. He's articulate.
Golfers don't usually get the kind of attention, TV ratings, and endorsement bucks that Tiger Woods generates. But then, there isn't any golfer quite like him.
Tiger Woods is more marketable than a basketball player simply because of the audience that golf reaches. It reaches a more affluent audience than the basketball audience. It would take, I don't know how many consumers buying Nikes to equal one consumer going out and buying a Buick.
Tiger Woods is only 24 years old. In terms of his golf career, he's got a long way to go. And in terms of endorsement deals, some say he could be the first billion-dollar athlete. For today, George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
So just how big a superstar is Tiger Woods? Mitch Albom, a columnist for the Detroit Free Press, is also the author of the best-selling book, Tuesdays with Maury. And historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin is a well-documented sports addict, and she's getting no help for this problem. Good morning to both of you. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Katie.
Mitch, let me start with you. So is Tiger simply the best athlete in the world right now?
Well, he's the best golfer in the world. It's hard to compare sports, but he dominates his sport more than I think anybody dominates theirs at this present time. And he's 24 in a sport where people don't usually get as good as he is until they're in their 30s. So he's going to be around for a very long time.
In a way, Doris, don't you think he transcends his particular sport of golf?
Oh, I think that's the nature of his appeal. I think it could be said of Tiger Woods, you know, young, rich, handsome, that incredible smile. What was said of young President Kennedy, that young girls wanted to marry him, older women wanted to mother him. You know, that picture of him as little Tiger when he's only 2 years old, and every single guy wanted to be him. So I think somehow that does transcend. We were in a bar the other night watching the Sunday Championship.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Doris.
Watching him, young women looking, I can't wait for him to win. That's unusual, I think.
Yeah, we'll ask you later, Doris, why you were in the bar watching the golf championship. Meanwhile, Mitch, you know, we've got Babe Ruth, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan. Is Tiger Woods poised to make that list, or has he already?
Well, it's a different world than all those people that you mentioned. I think because of the media that's going on, Babe Ruth never had to deal with any of that. I think he's poised. I worry a little bit for him because he is only 24 years old, and he often seems very guarded already in what he says. You recall the incident over the weekend at the U.S. Open where he used a little foul language, which is not unusual in the game of golf, but because it was Tiger Woods, it was caught on a camera, suddenly it was a front-page story. All this has the effect of making a person very guarded in what he says, and I think when you're 24 years old, you should be allowed to be exuberant and be a 24-year-old. Sometimes Tiger looks a lot older than his years, and I think that's going to be his biggest battle in the years to come, how to still be a regular guy, a kid virtually, and yet the most famous athlete on the planet.
But in a way, isn't that his personality? He seems to have almost a regal bearing, to be incredibly self-possessed for a man his age, doesn't he, Doris?
Yeah, he does seem to have a dignity. I think what Mitch said is correct, though. Right now, because he's young, because he's black, he can seem like the underdog coming into a sport that was not notoriously open to a lot of different people. But if he keeps winning, if he doesn't lose anymore, it might seem too mechanical. But so far, he's lost 1 out of 4 big championships. So that means he's won 1 out of 4, so that means he's lost 3 out of 4, so he's still human. But I guess if anybody keeps winning and it seems like they can't lose, then maybe some of that magic is gone. But so far, he's on top of the world.
There obviously have been tremendous golfers in the past. I mean, we don't have to name them. Mitch, what do you think Tiger Woods will bring to the game of golf? How will he change the game?
Well, if you go to Scotland, where the game is really a national sport, you see 10-year-old kids walking around with golf clubs. It's not an unusual thing. I think you might see for the first time something like that happening in America. Golf had always been sort of traditionally seen as an older white man sport. Now I think because of Tiger's age, because of his ethnicity, you're probably going to see a lot of people taking part in the game of golf who didn't take part in it before. That is a sea change. When you can have one individual sort of change the way people participate in a sport, not just watch it, you're going to have long-lasting effect, and I think in the long run that will be his biggest legacy.
But Doris, because golf really does attract a much more affluent audience, as we heard in George's piece, you know, people who buy Buicks rather than Nikes, do you think that that will prohibit Tiger Woods from having true mass appeal in this country?
I'm not sure. I think television somehow can break those barriers. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, we as Catholics couldn't get into the local golf course. Jews couldn't get into them. I pictured every golf guy as somebody with green pants or plaid pants. And now somehow there's this young, attractive guy. And I think for younger people who are not even wealthy, there's going to be a feeling like somebody is dominant, somebody's excellent, and that makes a difference.
We heard George Lewis say that he might be the first billion-dollar athlete. Mitch, do you think that could be the case?
Well, if anybody's going to reach that status, it's going to be him because he has a marketing machinery behind him that is incredible. That spot that you just showed with him bouncing the golf ball is exactly the kind of thing that will transcend him over what you were just saying, Katie, about golf traditionally being sort of a rich person's sport. With Nike behind him, with his management team, the agents and the people who handle him, he will be turned into the guy next door, the guy in your living room, the friendliest guy you want to know. This is the image-making machinery that goes on in America now. You need only look at what Michael Jordan became, really the most popular person on the planet, I think, over the last few years. So it won't really matter that golf was always this. With Tiger, everything is new and everything is possible.
All right, Michael has some competition now. Mitch Albom and Doris Kearns-Goodwin, nice to see you both. Thanks so much for talking with us this morning.
Katie.
It is 7:21. We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC. Coming up in our next half hour, why are airfares so high anyway, and are there any bargains in the sky this summer?
And later, the start of our summer-long series called Today Ties the Knot. You get to decide who gets married live on the Today Show. That's after these messages and your local news.
From the WMAQ TV newsroom, this is NBC5 Chicago Today.
Good morning, Chicago. I'm Mark Norman at 7:26 on your Tuesday, the 20th day of June, topping our news. Soaring gasoline prices here in the Chicago area is prompting some local cab drivers to think about shutting off their engines. Chicago cabbies are telling NBC5 that they are planning a 24-hour strike to protest the high price of gasoline. The cabbies say they hope to convince City Hall to okay a taxi fare increase and a surcharge, they say, that would help them cover the rising cost of fuel. Well, today is the first day of summer school for thousands of Chicago public school students, and Mayor Daley will ring the school bell at the Edward Jenner Academy on the near north side of town. Summer school is now mandatory for those students who did not make the grade. If you'll recall, social promotions were banned under the School Reform Act here in Chicago. Right now, let's get the latest on the rush hour. Here's Dawn.
And it's a pretty messy rush hour at that. Sky 5 Mike Lober is over the northwestern suburbs saying it's raining like crazy out there, right, Mike?
Raindrops are falling on your head northbound Tri-State. Big delays Crawford all the way through the Hinsdale Oasis, and then from 290 in pockets up through O'Hare. An accident on the ramp off to the side, Dawn.
Thank you, sir. Outbound Kennedy, we've got a crash on the side here at Cumberland. 36 minutes now in from O'Hare. It's an hour and 11 minutes out to the airport. North front of the Tri-State, we also have an accident right at the 290 ramps. It is crawling from Crawford up to I-90, the Northwest Tollway, in pockets. Art?
All right, let's find out when the rain is going to stop. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning, Art. Good morning, Don. Unfortunately, as Don mentioned, traffic crawling in many areas, and it doesn't look like that's going to stop anytime soon. Our forecast for today is we give you a live look at Doppler radar. You can see widespread showers. We're calling also for the possibility of isolated thunderstorms to develop later on this afternoon. Let's check the forecast. Temperatures this afternoon will be in the upper 70s and low 80s. Southeasterly winds about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Now, the thunderstorms expected to continue overnight and possibly into the wee hours on Wednesday morning. Then we begin to dry out. Warm temperatures staying with us all the way into the weekend, low to mid 80s. But today, Art, unfortunately, a lot of rain.
All right, thank you very much, Shelley. That's the latest from the NBC5 newsroom. Please join us at 11 o'clock this morning. Dr. Marianne Malloy is making her weekly house call. She'll have some healthy advice on how not to get sick on your summer vacation. I'm Art Norman. That and much more begins at 11 a.m. here on NBC5.
We're back at 7:30 on this Tuesday morning. It is the 20th day of June. The year is 2000. And in case you didn't know, summer officially arrives tonight at 9:48 Eastern Time. And the folks outside our window on the world here in Rockefeller Plaza seem to be in a summer mood. They look like they're having a good time, and we appreciate their being here as always.
And appropriately, it is sunny this morning outside.
That's right. You talked about what a beautiful day it would be yesterday, and it never got so beautiful, did it? It was sort of overcast, but the sun is shining right now, and that's a good sign. Meanwhile, back inside Studio 1A, I'm Katie Couric, along with Ann Curry, who's filling in, so Matt can enjoy some vacation time. Meanwhile, coming up in this half hour, what's up with airfares? They seem higher than ever this summer. Is it because of skyrocketing fuel prices? What's going on? We're going to take a look and let you know if there are any bargains to be had out there. Ann?
Also, Katie, we're going to have part 2 of Matt's interview with actor-comedian Jim Carrey, whose new movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, opens this week. This morning, Carrey talks about his choice of movie roles and his chances of winning an Oscar someday.
And men, listen up. Just because you don't have a figure like the male models in GQ, there is no excuse for a suit that doesn't fit. You don't need a lot of money either. We've got some fashion tips for real men from GQ.
And we have some real men who are modeling this morning.
That's right. Yeah! And speaking of real men, our own real man, Al Roker, is outside with a check of the weather.
Hey, we do have a nice day out here, Katie. I mean, it is gorgeous and perfect baseball weather. And we got the Harlem RBI New York. Great organization making sure the game of baseball is played all across this great city. Your name, sir?
Yes, I'm Rich Berlin, Executive Director of Harlem RBI.
And tell us about it really quickly.
Harlem RBI is a community-based organization that's been going for about 10 years in East Harlem, New York, and it gets about 350 kids involved in baseball and year-round educational and enrichment programs.
That's great. And what do you got going this weekend?
This weekend is a full slate of baseball. Sammy's Eagles have a big doubleheader over in Central Park, and I think he's got some stuff for you guys.
Whoa, oh, nice shirts. Well, thank you. Is this for the whole gang?
That's right. We've got one for everybody.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck this weekend. All right, way to go. Play ball. All right, let's check your weather and show you what's happening as far as the drought outlook. Looks like it's going to be getting better in the southeast, but no change likely in the Midwest, and the Southwest may see some monsoonal moisture coming in. Rest of the weather for today, heavy thunderstorms from the plains down into Texas, windy in central Texas, beautiful here in the Northeast, lots of rain in Florida on into the Southeast, and out west going to be gorgeous. Portland, Oregon today, sunshine and 80 degrees. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Thank you, Mr. Roker. Good morning, everyone. This is a live look at Doppler radar, continuing to see widespread showers. Throughout the day, we will start to see isolated thunderstorms pop up. Daytime highs later on this afternoon running in the upper 70s and low 80s. Forecast is calling for southeasterly winds to intensify this afternoon, about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Tonight, the thunderstorms will continue. We're looking also even at a few isolated showers lingering into early Wednesday morning. Beyond that, we stay warm and dry out.
Latest weather now back inside to Katie.
Thank you, Al. If you've tried to make summer travel plans, you may have noticed that airfares are higher this year, but there may still be a few bargains left. Tom Parsons is the CEO of bestfares.com. Tom, welcome back. Nice to see you.
Well, thank you.
Let's take a look at some sample sort of round trip fares. We've got a graphic. From Washington to San Francisco round trip, $617. Chicago to London round trip, $963. Boston, St. Thomas, $739. Denver, Tokyo, $1,360. How do these prices, Tom, compare to this time last summer?
Well, actually, the fares are much higher. Today, okay? I mean, we've had 5 major fare sales earlier this year. year. The seats were taken up, they went away. Now the planes are full, the demand's high. So what do you think? The airlines want a lot of greenbacks, and we want to give them less, but they don't. They know there's a demand for airfares right now.
So when you hear about higher fuel prices, is that just a bunch of hogwash? Is the fact of the matter the economy is booming, so people are flying?
I believe so. I mean, right now, the planes are going to be running 80% full this summer. Any of those last-minute people. Now, I still think we'll see deals as we get into the season, and we've got some deals right now, too. So.
I know, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but we are going to see lower fares in the future, you think?
Yeah, I think for the summer, we're going to have to be really picky on where we go. As we get into September, October, November, I think you'll still have the possibility of seeing fares like we saw earlier this year, as low as $198 to $218 round trip. The problem is we have to be patient, we have to be flexible.
All right, in fact, we've got some tips, and the first tip you suggest is people really need to do their homework.
Right.
How do they do their homework?
It's really tough. I mean, I think you've got to use your travel agent. I think you've got to use the internet. I think you've just got to sit out there and pick your markets and be very selective on where you're going to go.
Do you think travel agents really get you the best fares?
I think your travel agent can be a good tool. But as I said, a tool. I think the internet, I mean, there's so many hidden travel deals, and sometimes they just pop up. Yes, I believe travel agents be a better tool, but I think you have to use everything to save money this year.
It's better to use the internet or travel agents rather than calling the airlines.
I think that's the worst place to go shopping.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Except for maybe you get a really nice ticket agent or a really nice person on the phone, and they're incredibly helpful if you know, if you're on hold for about an hour and a half before you talk to them.
Right.
But
that happens too. I mean, the economy is very good right now, and again, we can find some deals.
All right. You also say be flexible. Let's talk about different ways you can be flexible.
Well, flexible is to the point you leave on certain days. Like we just saw some fares high to London. You know, if you can leave on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, British Airways just kicked out a fare sale. New York was $700 and some. It's now $498 if you leave on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. LA is $698 versus $998.
Also, you should pick airports that may be a little bit more out of the way. For example, Oakland rather than LA or whatever.
For example, New York, Oakland, JetBlue. $198 coast to coast. New York to San Francisco, maybe $500 and some. Give me a break. 7 miles. Save myself $300, I'm going to Oakland.
And when it comes to traveling to Europe, too, you can travel to a city and maybe take a train to your ultimate destination and save a lot of money.
Right. This year, right now, I think if you look at London, Paris, Brussels, and Amsterdam, that's your gold mine cities. Every other place is about $400 higher.
All right. Tom Parsons, and also ask about kids' fares because sometimes they can get a good deal on that and people forget to do that.
And seniors too, everybody, college students, everything.
Thank you, Tom. Up next, some fashion advice for the well-dressed man. But first, these messages.
All right, so you open up GQ magazine, and normally what you see are guys who look like Matt Lauer. Nothing wrong with that, but most of us don't look like that. We're real guys. How do you make a real guy look good? How do you get them in a suit to make sure they look their best? Well, in this month's GQ magazine, it's Suit Your Shape. And leading off the magazine, well, yours truly wearing a Xenia suit from Rochester Big and Tall. But beyond that, how about some other guys? Tall, short, chubby. Well, we've got a guy here to help us fit your guy. GQ's creative director, Jim Moore, GQ.
Good morning.
Took a look at all these guys who don't fit the normal pattern, right, Jim?
It's true. It's exactly what you say. Not every guy's a 40 regular. Not everyone's a perfect size.
Mm-hmm.
We really wanted to go out there and say, you know, every guy could look great in a suit. So we've given the ultimate guide on how to look great, no matter what your shape is.
Now, before we get to the suits, shirt collars.
Shirt collars are so important because they really frame the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think nowadays in business, so many men, as soon as they get to the office, they take their jacket off.
Right.
So the shirt is very, very important. But I just want to point out a few of the collars that are very important in today's shirt market. The straight point collar is a classic. It's been around forever.
That would fit somebody my face?
Yeah, I think someone with a little bit more of a round face. And I think people think anyone can wear the straight point, and actually a very tall person should not wear it because it creates a very vertical line.
What about the spread collar?
This is the spread collar, which is really, you know, the granddaddy of all collars. It's kind of a British influence, has a little bit more of a horizontal line. So someone who's a little bit thinner, a little bit taller looks great in it. And we also think it looks great without a tie. I'm wearing a spread collar shirt, and I wear them often without ties. This is the shirt that's absolutely for everyone. This is the moderate spread collar, and it's kind of between the point and the spread, and it really, it's the shirt collar for everyone. It's not too horizontal, it's not too vertical. It kind of frames everyone's face perfectly.
Well, we have brought in some guys who are different body shapes, a couple from our staff, as a matter of fact. Our first one, Ronnie Coppola. Ronnie is, as we've said, vertically challenged, let's say. Doesn't make him a bad guy, he's just vertically challenged. What do you do for somebody who's a little shorter?
Well, Ronnie's 5'6", he looks great, and what we did is we put him in this Banana Republic suit, and what's great about this suit is you can buy it as separate.
Why don't you spin it around a little there, Ronnie?
Ronnie is a...
Very nice.
Ronnie's
Give us some attitude, Ronnie. Go, Ronnie. Go, Ronnie.
But he's a 38 short, and basically what we did is we put him in a 3-button that buttons to the middle button, which I think gives him a slim, a little bit longer, leaner look. The lapel on the jacket's a little narrower, so we went with a narrower tie and a narrower, a little bit smaller collar.
All right.
The flat front pants looks really hip on him.
Let's bring in our next contestant, Frank Minieri, owner of Il Cantori Restaurant downtown. Now tell us about Frank quickly.
Frank is wearing a great Canali suit from Rochester Big and Tall. He's actually between a regular and a long, so we put him in an Italian suit, which cuts a little bit longer.
And an Italian restaurant.
Exactly. He's broad in the shoulders, and so we gave him an Italian suit that really flatters his shoulders and his chest and gave him a monochromatic look for evening.
You like this look, Frank?
Beautiful.
All right. Now, for our Twin Towers, we've got Stu Reamer of our staff.
Stu looks great. Stu's 6'4", and I think what we really need to say here is if you're over 6'3", you should really buy an extra long. This is an extra long suit. The 2-button really accentuates his torso. He's wearing a pinstripe, which some people think, you know, tall people can't wear pinstripes, but he looks terrific in it. You know, pocket square, nice blue-green combination that accepts
He looks good.
Yeah,
he's a sweet piece of man candy.
Yeah,
all right.
that's great.
And last, come on in here, Bob Fellner. He is a self-proclaimed has-been.
That's right.
I don't know. Now, tell us about Bob.
Bob is a dandy. I mean, he's really loves
Are you a dandy,
to.
Bob?
I try to be.
Okay.
He is, and I think
pay me.
I think he really likes to, you know, celebrate his bigness and his whole idea of wearing color. He loves color. He had this suit made about 18 years ago. It still looks terrific.
Wow.
2-button peak lapel. Really accentuates the face with the bright color of the pocket square.
Bob, do you spend a lot for your clothes?
Some people do.
Well, let's bring in the rest of our models. Bring them all in here. Thank you very much, Ronnie, Frank, and of course, Stu. As you can see, and of course, how do I look?
You look terrific. Great.
All righty, well, thanks a lot, Jim Moore.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Coming up next, Jim Carrey and his new comedy, Me, Myself, and Irene. That's right after this. Come on, boys, let's style.
After dramatic films like The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, Jim Carrey returns to his roots in physical comedy in the new movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, opening this week. Matt recently caught up with him at the airport, and in part 2 of their conversation, Carrey talks about being taken seriously as an actor and his thoughts on someday winning an Oscar.
Jim Carrey critics are going to say this is one of those movies.
Yeah,
Okay?
sure.
This is Dumb and Dumber, this is Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Is it a safe haven for you to make these kinds of movies?
You know, I don't really think about that. You know, I can't really think about the consequences. All I can think about is that I'm lucky enough to be able to do a lot of different things. And if, you know, I get to the end of a couple of dramas and I want to have some fun, you know, it's a natural thing for an artist to do, I think. And, you know, I think that's a job of an actor to do many different things. You
But
know,
the people
to throw
who...
the hounds off the trail, to not like, you know, always be trying to go right down the so-called power alley. You know what I mean?
But the people who watch this type of movie and will go buy these tickets are the people who made you a star. Do you ever feel an obligation to do movies for them?
I feel an obligation to them to be honest to myself about what I want to do, because that's where the inspiration for those movies came. So if I have other stories to tell, then I'll tell them. If some of them want to come along and be part of it, fantastic. And you know, other audiences and other people will be drawn to the new concept as well. So it'll just be a little different mix, you know.
But clear it up.
You got to you got to cross the river every once in a while.
But
where the tracks go?
Is it easier to do a movie like this? I mean, let's face it, you've got kind of a wild personality, and these movies allow you to be yourself. So could you do these in your sleep?
No, it's a lot of hard work, but, you know, it's, I actually have done a couple in my sleep.
Do movies like this cost you Oscars?
I don't care about that.
You don't at all?
No, I'd love to get an Oscar someday, but my attitude towards it is, I'm the guy who talked through his ass and for 6 movies, didn't care about a thing, and suddenly showed up in a couple of dramas. So I don't really expect them to sort of change their mind about me so quick.
Do you think
I think my fans, people who like my work, are more upset about it than I am. I don't have a special sense of entitlement.
You don't see the people in the Academy sitting there going, I liked him as Andy Kaufman, and he
wanted to like him, and he did it to me again.
Exactly.
No, I don't. It's like, I can't base my career and my creative life on an award.
So it would
That's the danger, is like, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this movie is because I'd done a couple of dramatic films, and I don't want to start suddenly gearing my choices to towards accolades. I want to do what's fun. There are a lot of different types of movies. There are the movies that make you not care about a damn thing for 2 hours, which this is, and that's a valuable thing to do for people. Then there's the movies that, make you care, who you live vicariously through the characters. An action film, you play out your secret, violence or whatever it is, that revenge thing, through the guy. Because it's very rare when the normal guy can walk around, have 1,000 bullets hailed at him, and not have a scratch. So there's a need for that, in our fantasy world. And then there's the type of movie where you are uplifted by just seeing somebody like yourself, and so I want to do all that if I can,
And if you come to the end of the career and you're the Dan Let me do it
For
again.
God's sakes! Cut! Start over. Damn it! Wipe the planes down. Wipe him down.
So if you get to the end of a career and you're like Dan Marino, or you're like a Patrick Ewing or a Charles Barkley, and you've had a great career but you don't have the ring, that's okay?
I don't think that's the ring. I mean, that's a marvelous thing. It's honestly a marvelous thing, and I do appreciate it. But I don't look at it like a football game, I don't look at it that way. I am like besieged by gifts from the universe, and I get to do what I love to do, and I get people walk up to me on the street every day with smiles on their faces and say, you just make me happy, dude, and my kids are happy too, and all that, So there's not much more you can get from an award, I believe that kind of thing will come, and it's okay when it does. Or if it doesn't, I'm okay too.
Me, myself, excuse me, and Irene opens nationwide on Friday. It is 7:52. We'll be back in a moment with more of Today, right after this. Sweet piece of man candy. Woo! Did they do a good job or what? Still to come this morning, we'll kick off our special summer-long Today Ties the Knot series. We'll introduce you to 4 couples, one of which you'll choose to get married live on Today. But first, these messages in your local news.
You are watching Today, America's favorite morning program.
From the WMAQ TV newsroom, this is NBC5 Chicago Today.
Good morning, Chicago. I'm Art Norwood at 7:56 on your Tuesday, the 20th day of June, topping our news. From the NBC5 News overnight desk, neighbors made a shocking discovery inside a vacant building, the body of a woman. Neighbors noticed a foul odor coming from the building here on East 113th Place. Inside, they discovered the decomposed body of a female on the floor of a closet. At this hour, police and investigators are trying to learn of the victim's name. Right now, let's get the latest numbers on the rush hour. What's up, Dawn?
Oh, my goodness. Those numbers are awfully high, Art, because of the rain out there. Sky 5 Mike Lober says it's pouring where he is. Mike?
It is out in the western suburbs. Big delays eastbound 88, 59 to 53. Also slowed down on northbound 59 and Naperville roads approaching the tollway.
Thank you, sir. Outbound of the Kennedy, we've got a crash on the side here at Cumberland. It's only 40 minutes in from O'Hare, but it's about an hour and 15 out to the airport. Elsewhere, outbound Ike is tough. It's an hour and 12 minutes just to Manheim, an hour and 25 out to Route 53. And the Northwest Tollway loads up from Route 53 all the way to the Des Plaines Oasis. Art?
We're going to check on the green blob and all that rain, Shelley.
And more rain is forecast throughout the day. We want to go ahead and give you a live look at Doppler radar. Widespread showers throughout the area. Now, throughout the afternoon, we are expecting not only the rain, but also isolated thunderstorms popping up. And as you well know, with those thunderstorms, we can see brief heavy downpours as well as the thunder and lightning. And again, that is our forecast through today, through tonight. Extended forecast once we make it through this Tuesday, a wet Tuesday at that. Sunshine and a warming trend as we head into Friday and Saturday, back into the mid-80s. Art?
Thank you. And that's the latest from the NBC5 Newsroom. Please join us at 11 o'clock this morning. Dr. Mary Ann Malloy is making her weekly house call. That and much more begins at 11 a.m. here on NBC5.